We're going to start with some breaking news. The Metropolitan Police officer charged with the murder of Chris Kaba in 2022 has been named in court for the first time as 40-year-old Martyn Blake. He has pleaded not guilty to Chris Kaba's murder. A senior Metropolitan Police officer had warned that naming the defendant would be hugely concerning for police officers. Let's remind you of the timeline of events relating to this case. Well, on September the 5th, 2022, a 24-year-old unarmed black man, Chris Kaba, died from a single gunshot wound to the head in Streatham Hill in South London. An inquest into his death was opened at Southwark Coroner's Court on the 4th of October. In September, an unnamed Metropolitan Police officer was charged with Chris Kaba's murder. A month later, a judge at the Old Bailey decided the officer, known as NX121, could be named from the end of January. But at a later hearing, this was delayed until March after the anonymity order was extended. The officer's murder trial date is due to begin in October. Let's cross to the Old Bailey and Sky's Shingi Maririki is there for us. Shingi, there's so many factors to this case, but one of them, one high-profile aspect, has been the reaction of police officers, particularly armed police officers in the background, both to the very fact he was charged with murder, but also the question as to whether he'd be named or not.
Yeah, that's right, Wilfred. And now we can name the officer charged with the murder of Chris Kaba as 40-year-old Martyn Blake. He appeared here at the Old Bailey to see that anonymity order lifted and also to enter his plea. He pleaded not guilty, and there was one more detail which was revealed today, which was his date of birth. We know that he was born on the 3rd of November 1983, making him 40 years old. Chris Kaba's family were also in the courtroom today, as well as Mr. Blake, for what was a highly emotional day for them. And this anonymity order being lifted represents a major moment in a case that happened on 5th of September 2022. Chris Kaba was followed through the streets of South London in a car that had been linked to a firearms offence the day before. At the end of that, he turned into a road in South London. There, he was shot by a single bullet that went through his windscreen. That provoked protests with people taking to the streets of London, but it also provoked that reaction that you mentioned from serving police officers. When the charging decision was made in September, we know that officers handed in their tickets, those permits that allow them to carry firearms, before ending that protest. But we've got a statement from the Metropolitan Police Federation off the back of Martyn Blake being named, and that is quite strongly worded. They say that their colleagues, the colleagues they represent, are hugely shocked, they're saddened and concerned over the decision to name the firearms officer involved in this incident. It continues to say that being a firearms officer in London is one of the world's toughest jobs. That is off the back of this naming decision. We also now know when Martyn Blake will serve trial. He will stand trial on the 2nd of October here at the Old Bailey in a case that has now seen a major development. The officer charged with murder has been named for the first time.